Let's talk about something that we all have, something that's with us every single second of the day, that voice in your head. What is it? Where does it even come from? And maybe most importantly, what happens if we can actually learn to turn it down for a bit?
I mean, really think about it. That narrator that's just constantly going in your mind. The one that's, replaying that awkward conversation from last week, worrying about that meeting next month, and just constantly telling you who you are. It's that voice that says, oh, you shouldn't have said that, or what are they going to think about this? We all have it. But what is it, really, from a scientific point of view?
Well, it turns out neuroscientists have actually pinpointed this inner voice. They've traced it to a specific brain system called the default mode network, or DMN, and you can see it here, defined as the ego. Just think of it like your brain's own personal storyteller. It's constantly taking old memories and ideas about the future and weaving them together into this story of you. But, and this is so important, that story, it is not the same thing as reality itself.
To get a better handle on this, here's a great way to think about the ego. It's like an internal map maker. It's an absolutely crucial tool for survival, for sure. But just like any map, it's always a simplified version of the world. It's not the world itself.
Now, this idea really comes to life when you look at the brain's two hemispheres. As you can see here, the left brain is the map maker. It's all about logic, language, and survival. It creates those stories about the past and the future. The right brain, though, is totally different. It experiences the territory, the real world, right now, directly, all at once, without a filter. And that storyteller ego we've been talking about? Yeah, it lives almost entirely in the left brain.
So the big question is, if the ego is just our brain's map maker, can we, put the map down for a little while and just experience the territory directly? Well, the answer is a definite yes. For thousands of years, traditions like meditation have been all about finding this mental off switch.
But what actually happens when people try this for the first time? Well, the results from one study of over 50 patients are just fascinating. For about 20% of people, not much happens. But for a huge 60%, it's like a deep therapy session. They get these incredible insights. And then there's the last 20%. For them, the experience is truly transcendental. We're talking a profound, life-altering shift in consciousness.
But of course, finding that off switch isn't always so simple. As you can see here, a whole range of things can make it pretty challenging. Sometimes it's a very strong, resistant ego. Other times, it could be certain medications, or even specific genetic traits. Even your personality type can play a role, especially if you're very grounded in the physical sensory world. It can just be harder to let go of that map.
Okay, so this is where it gets really wild. For those people who do manage to break through, what does it actually feel like to journey beyond that map? Let's dive into some absolutely incredible first-person accounts.
So get this, one person described this shift not as a thought, but as a completely physical sensation. He said his consciousness literally felt like an elevator, rising up from the base of his spine all the way to the top of his head. And what's crazy is that he later found out this perfectly matched ancient descriptions of Kundalini, a kind of divine energy that's believed to be coiled right there at the base of the spine.
And the journey didn't stop there. He then found himself in what he described as this gigantic empty space. And right there in the middle of it was a ball of light. Incredibly powerful, he said, but it didn't hurt his eyes. The feeling was so overwhelming, he could only describe it as being in the presence of God.
From this ball of light, countless rays streamed out in every direction, and he felt one of them connect directly to his chest. And with it came this unbelievable flood of feeling, what he called divine mercy and absolute justice. It was this deep, profound sense that he was getting exactly what he was meant to receive in that moment.
Now, here's the part that might just blow your mind. He had never seen this kind of imagery before in his life, but when he described his vision to a friend, they showed him this, a 3,000-year-old carving of the pharaoh Akhenaten, and it was a perfect match, right down to the sun disk god with rays of light touching humanity. It really makes you wonder, could we be tapping into some kind of collective unconscious, a shared pool of ancient symbols buried deep inside all of us? Okay, I know this all sounds pretty mystical and out there, but believe it or not, there's some very real science that's starting to ground these experiences. Scientists are now actually beginning to map out the biology behind these incredible shifts in consciousness.
And here's what they've found. It turns out that both deep meditation and clinically administered psychedelics, like psilocybin, seem to do the exact same thing to the brain.
They reduce blood flow to the ego's home base, that default mode network. It's like they turn the volume way down on that inner storyteller. And when that happens, the rest of the brain can communicate in new ways, opening up a totally different perception of reality.
Now, we have to be super clear here. When we talk about this stuff, we're talking about rigorous, controlled, clinical sessions. The goal here is absolutely not recreational. It's about deep, guided inner exploration. As you can see, the whole process is designed for safety, with trained guides and tools like eye masks and music that help you turn your attention inward.
But, and this is a big but, this inner journey isn't always about seeing balls of light. When the ego's usual defenses are down, you can also come face to face with what some people call your shadow. You know, your deepest fears, your anger, your insecurities. As this quote says, facing those dark things is a massive act of courage. And the goal isn't to fight them, but to finally understand them and integrate them.
Because at the end of the day, the whole point of these journeys isn't to escape reality. It's actually the opposite. It's to come back to your life with a totally new perspective, armed with insights that can genuinely change your life for the better.
One of the most amazing things that can happen is the ability to actually heal the past. For instance, one person who had a really difficult relationship with his parents was transported back to the direct feeling of his own conception. He experienced it not as a story he'd been told, but as a sacred act of pure love and energy. And that one single experience completely rewired and healed decades of resentment, just like that.
And look, the benefits aren't just warm, fuzzy feelings. They're real, they're tangible, and they're measurable. On a biological level, these experiences can literally increase the neural connections in your brain. Therapeutically, they're proving to be incredibly effective for treating things like depression, PTSD, and addiction. By quieting that nagging ego, so many people just find a profound sense of peace and connection.
I mean, the numbers are just staggering. Some of the clinical trials are showing improvement rates of over 70% for conditions that are notoriously hard to treat. To put that into perspective, one of the sources for this pointed out that no pill on the market comes anywhere close to that level of effectiveness. It's a real game changer. This all brings us back to that powerful personal story and this really profound insight. As the quote puts it so perfectly, the real gift your parents gave you is your body. The rest is story. All the drama, the blame, the narratives we build up over a lifetime, that's all just the map. The life itself, that's the territory, and we have the power to redraw our own map. Which really leads us to one final fundamental question. If you can turn down that storyteller, if you can quiet that voice, even for a moment, it proves you are not just your story. You are not just your ego. So the question I want to leave you with is this: who or what are you really?